Bam. All right. We are up and running. MC is in the house. All right. Got a bunch of you guys watching today, which is good. I am going to give everybody a chance to jump on. Of course, as expected, maybe that had something to do with it. There were some technical difficulties, but they have been resolved, and we are good to go. All right. Mad Poet, what's going on? Utgard, what's going on, my man? All right. So as people jump on, let me get the housekeeping out of the way. So if you guys are watching this and you are not yet signed up to the Master Chim letter, which is my free email newsletter, go to masterchim.com and put your email in and start getting them. Angel, what's going on, my man? Big Caceres in the house. All the relevant links and whatnot are in the description on YouTube and Facebook. Right now, this is broadcasting simultaneously on the TRIBALNOMICS YouTube page, also the Justin Garcia Facebook page, and the Master Chim Facebook page. One of the things that I've noticed, and this isn't really new, it is a pretty established fact that I'm certainly not the only one, but there are accounts that are shadow banned and are sort of restricted when it comes to the exposure through the normal algorithmic means on all of these social media platforms. And I am certainly somebody that fits the bill. I think all those years of talking shit about how much I get away with because my last name's Garcia, I think when it all said and done, the joke's going to be on me, because when I remember making a post a couple of days ago on the Master Chim page, I think it was, and I have over 50,000 followers on the MC page, and after 12 hours, it was it got like I think 150 impressions. 150 people saw it. Now I understand, and the thing is, there are a lot of people now who would, rebut what I'm saying and say that, well, yeah, but as the algorithms become more sophisticated, people could customize what they're exposed to. So it's like, listen, you could fucking preach whatever they want you to preach all day long. But the fact remains that there is a bias that we need to be aware of. It's one of the reasons I'm always stressing, that people join my email list. I've always said it's just a matter of time before, barring any larger meta changes going on in society, just a matter of time before I get either, suspended or removed from social media. I have a bunch of good friends of mine who are going through this all the time, and they're on their umpteenth, social media account, and every single time they have to start all over again. I remember a couple of years ago, oh Jesus, what is his name? This, by the way, this goes hand in hand with my point. I can barely even remember the guy's channel on YouTube. Red something. Holy shit. Brain fart. But whatever it was, he had a huge following, was putting out solid content, was playing the game like everybody plays the game, not saying certain things, not putting certain phrases out there and stuff like that. He was playing the game as best he could, but just got too much momentum organically. Boom, got his channel removed. And he's somebody, so to the best of my knowledge, and as shared by him, he was actually paying, this was his living, so it's not like he was somebody that was just doing this for shits and giggles and, was trolling and then eventually got removed. This is somebody that built up a following. So point being, we all know that this is borrowed time, at whatever scale you want to give it credit for where that's concerned. But all that being said, masterchim.com, put your email in. So let's talk about the Texas situation, I will say, because I honestly feel, and I haven't confirmed this, but I honestly feel that it is probably algorithmically, unwise to put Texas and the SH word together, because that'll signify something to all of the bots. But let's talk about that. So a lot of different debates and arguments going on right now concerning what it is how we're supposed to react to this. Now, I remember a couple of years ago, and I bring this up more often than I even would like to, but it just remains relevant. So whatever. There was a stabbing, a killing of a teenage boy in the Bronx, not too far from where my school is. And he was basically just poked outside of a bodega by a bunch of, ne'er-do-wells, a bunch of ruffians, and wound up dying. And there was this whole movement, that wound up as a result of that, called the Justice for Junior, movement. And it was a campaign to, do whatever the fuck they were going to do. I don't know. Somehow they probably sent money to other countries because this kid got stabbed. But the whole thing was the backlash and the outcry of emotion in every direction was really because there was a video of this teenager being killed. And I brought up the point that thousands of people every year get stabbed to death, and every single one of them resembles that. But the fact that it was in front of their faces afforded them a bias that wasn't really curtailed, by their environment. It was this sort of mass, effort towards just cathartically becoming emotionally driven, and a whole bunch of things happened as a result of that. None of them obviously ever going to undermine or stop people from getting stabbed to fucking death, right? Edson, what's up? He's in Hio, what's up? You is show. I think that's being translated, but boa tarde, Edson, obrigado, prazer, all that stuff. So Corey, what's going on? Good afternoon to you, my friend. So when we're looking at now the scenario of a fucking nut job going in and shooting, a bunch of kids and adults, shot his grandmother, I think was the first, one to get shot. There's a couple of different levels to this. And this is, I've sort of relegated myself to somebody who, I understand there are going to be people who just don't like me. There are going to be people who I am going to trigger because triggering them is probably the most value I have to them in our alliance, as like some internet individual and other people. Cohen, what's up, brother, man? And when I look at, what happened in Texas, you got a bunch of kids that died. Okay. Not to belittle the significance of any of the lives of those children by any means, which is probably me saying too much. This is me like placating the fucking weakness in people by even adding all those fucking conditions to it. But there are kids that are getting shot every day. In Chicago, I don't know what, let me look it up. I got the computer up here. I'm going to Google gunshot victims in Chicago in 2022. It's funny. I got to find a source of this, right? So I'm looking for the site, but one of the news links that pops up in the Google results, 21 killed, 27 others wounded in weekend shootings across Chicago, posted a day ago. So far in 2022, 223 victims were killed in Chicago. 223 victims. And now, from 0 to 18 years of age, 30 of them were killed. From 0 to 15, 11 of them. So 11 people, 11 children, 15 or younger, were murdered in Chicago this year so far. So I could go on, obviously with this. I think my point is made, though. There is context, right? There is a context that we need to be aware of. So the conversation that is purely fueled by an individual's reaction to an individual scenario that they were exposed to has a very limited utility outside of that very specific conversation. Is it, deplorable and tragic what happened in Texas? Duh, obviously. But what is it that we're exactly supposed to do to stop a crazy person from going on a murder spree? Like, what is it that you think you're going to do? I put a post up yesterday on social media, a few of them. I was having fun making people go fucking insane. And I put up, hey, something like crazy liberals or crazy leftists. When you're done getting rid of all the guns, can you do mosquitoes next? The implication obviously being like, yeah, good luck getting rid of guns. Like some Star Trek fucking era, just beam all the guns into oblivion, beam them off the fucking the surface of Mars. Like these things don't exist. Logistically, it's not even a possibility. So being that logistically it's not a possibility, what is the value of even acting like that should be a proposal in terms of legislation? I've said before, you cannot legislate morality. You cannot legislate morality. You can incentivize morality. You can punish deviance from a collective morality. But you can't create a law and make people good. That's never happened. That's not a thing. So all the arguments about the laws that are supposed to be changed, it's purely motivated by the emotion that this one situation brought on, along with the leverage that's provided some people who are, acting of their own accord with their own strategies in mind. I just don't understand. It's ultimately, if we're talking about, the conversation of the laws that are supposed to happen, there's no connection here. I'll go so far as to say it is a non sequitur to bring up the murder of 18 kids and however many adults that fucking Captain Crazy Pants went on yesterday, and then to somehow correlate it or connect it to any proposal or motivation or logical support for a legislative change. New laws being added to the books. Like, it's just not going to happen. So it leads us to then, well, what scale is it that that has the effective conversation in it? What do we have to talk about? What level of scale do we have to discuss where there's actually utility in what is agreed upon or processed and conclusions being drawn? Like, where does that happen? And it comes down to, as usual, the individual. It comes down to the individual. It's like, okay, and this is where, I'm gonna anger the people who are so angerable, right? Don't be angerable, and you won't be angry, by the way. Little life lesson, a little tip for you. But out of all those children who were shot yesterday, what were the ways that they could have not been shot? Let's say one of the kids' name is Billy. I haven't seen the names of any of the kids, so let's just say one of the kids' name is Billy. And Billy got shot by Captain Crazy Pants in Texas yesterday. And I'm Billy's dad, and I have to think, okay, if I had to change something, how would I change the outcome of Billy getting murdered by Captain Crazy Pants? What would I do? I could say, easily. I mean, hey, it's the easy one for me. I wrote a book on homeschooling. It's like, hey, if he wasn't there, he wouldn't have been shot by Captain Crazy Pants. So, maybe I could have not had him there. by the way, more, agree with it, don't agree with it, still more value and truth than saying you're going to change the law, and change the outcome. Another thing you could say is, well, if the school systems basically had a capable, ready force of security, whether it be a third party, in the form of a security guard or, guards, what have you, or, just creating a culture where, maybe individual teachers take on culturally a responsibility to protect, the children that are in their classes. There is certainly a better conversation to be had than the meta conversation about, well, we need to change gun laws. Oh man, like I was locked up as a teenager. The reason I was locked up as a teenager is because I did stuff that was against the law. So, I mean, there's just a certain just disconnect when it comes to people and the relationship of what the law could actually fucking do for you. In my book, I talk about it. Let me see. I have my book here. I don't know what page it is, but one of the images, if I knew how to use all this technology, I could probably bring up a fucking screen share, but we're going to go old school. We're going to go analog here. And I really hope I didn't pass this fucking thing. Oh, here it is. So if you look at this, the conceptual job of a leader, the conceptual job of the leader. Now, when looking at this diagram, you have the mission. That is whatever it is, has brought these people together. These people, and obviously this represents, and you can see it says incentivize and regulate, right? I'm not going to hold this fucking thing up for an hour. The curve represents, a normal curve, and there's going to be the lion's share of individuals in the tribe who are acting morally and on mission. The leader's job is to incentivize them, to further incentivize them to continue doing what it is that they're doing. The people on the outsides, though, who are straying off of mission, what we would call the deviants of the group, they need to be regulated. Why do they need to be regulated? Because it cannot be accepted that these deviants are acting in a way that is not going to warrant a consequence, because then it makes ambiguous the perception of what the mission is for everybody. Incentivize this. When people are, straying from one side to the other deviantly, it should be regulated to further incentivize them to find the common culture with the pack, with the tribe. Like when we're looking at society, you're never going to stop people from being deviants. That is just a consequence of the natural flow of individuals, right? When we're looking at how we developed as a species, and I'm certainly no fucking, biologist, nor archaeologist, nor evolutionary biologist, right? Like I'm a guy that reads a bunch of stuff and has a bunch of opinions. So put that out there. But when we developed as a species, the tribe was first. The individual came much, much later. The individual, the individual who existed outside of the scope of the state, and not, physically, not geographically, not in his locality, but in how he saw himself. That is very, very recent. That is very, very recent. I forget the order of knights that were credited by Nietzsche as being the first ones to represent an individual sort of mindset, this sort of the king be damned sort of perspective of I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And they did it in the form of this romantic poetry, basically trying to woo women, and how it was a significant development in the culture at the time, because here were people who were, who were supposed to be connected to this system, and they were like, fuck that. I'm going to do me, I'm going to do what makes sense to me. But the individual, the point being, the individual is never going to be something you are going to eliminate. When you go to certain third world countries, shitholes around the world, you do something that is a deviant behavior. You could have your fucking hand cut off. You could have your head cut off. You could be imprisoned for a ridiculous, amount of time from an American perspective. All these sorts of things could happen, but all it is their application of how to regulate deviancy. Because they understand there's a point where that needs to stop. So now our system here in the U.S., we have a constitution, we have a constitutional republic, representative government, but all based on that constitution. I've said time and time again, the constitution is the compromise. How do we all coexist? Well, let's follow the formula that's helped us for hundreds of years to this point. We have the constitution. Whenever somebody has an opinion, a preference that exists outside of that compromise, that agreement of the Constitution, then we have to understand there's a certain point where them pursuing their preference needs to be regulated. Prior to that, we want to have a system that incentivizes functional behavior. My biggest argument against gay marriage, by the way, I don't give a fuck if two guys want to be married or if two women want to be married. I don't fucking care. Just like I don't care if a pregnant woman wants to kill her baby. I really don't. I understand the limits of my expectations where things at that level of scale should be. But my whole thing is, can you not fuck up society in the process? Why is it that, you need to try to normalize your individual preferences? When it's not illogical, it's not even selfish to just expect these individuals to be able to see. Can't you see that if everybody did what you're doing, we wouldn't have everything we have? This isn't a condemnation of your preferences. It's just asking you to sort of follow the compromise. And just understand, if you refuse to do that, there's going to be conflict. Of course, at a state level, we have law. Right? We have law, we have contract law, we have these things that developed in Western society to basically stop neighbors from feeling compelled to kill each other, which oftentimes lasted generations. It's like, okay, yeah, we have this third party who's going to mediate or be, the bringer of justice in these situations. But there's something to be said for that is just the system that we've adopted to allow that to happen. But if anybody ever did something to one of my children and they were found, innocent in the court of law, I'm coming for you. Why? Because the system is going to be there. I'm going to wait for the system to do what if it's not going to do it. Now, I would like to say that I'd wait for the system, but you guys understand the point. When we look at government as a set of rules, and we don't have an inherent overlap with the morality of the people, then it's going to be everybody looking for loopholes. Right? There are going to be some people, and I've done this in a bunch of events over the years, where I'll ask anybody, who here does not rape women? And I'm usually speaking to men, obviously. And, obviously everyone's hands up. It's a gimme, right? So I get everybody to participate. If it's after lunch, I use this to sort of wake everybody the fuck up as they're going into their carb coma. And I say, who here doesn't rape women? And a bunch of hands, and I'll call on people. Why don't you rape women? Oh, because it's wrong, because, a man should not do that because it's against, my values as a man. And eventually you ask enough people, because, every new guy wants to give a different answer than the last guy. Somebody says, because it's illegal. And I always, fucking zero in on the guy who says that eventually, and it's not on him. I fucking set him up to do this. And I go, wait a minute. So if it wasn't illegal, you'd be, surprising women with sex all over the place. Oh no, I'm not saying that. And obviously, but what's the point? The point is we create the law like, no raping women, because there are going to be some people who are like, I'll rape a woman. And then they look at the consequences and they're going, yep, it's not worth it. There are going to be some people, obviously, that despite the consequences, they're still going to go ahead and do it. But having the consequences at a certain level of deviation from what we would consider normal behavior lets everybody know the direction you should be moving when it comes to, what's acceptable in this group. When you have an individual who wants to, just express his individuality to the form or to the level of just complete dysfunction, it's like, no, this is not the way it's going to work, man. This is not the way it's going to work. We're not going to sit by and just let you do whatever the fuck you want, at least not outside the confines of your own home, right? So getting back to the Texas situation, it's funny because not everybody's even playing the rules. And this is one of the things where, guides on both sides of the fence, like I got to take issue with for different reasons, but like nobody really escapes the spotlight of hypocrisy, I could say, or weakness at least. This whole, can you believe Joe Biden didn't even pray for the families first? He went right to pushing the agenda. He went right to, it's like, well, listen, like, did you not expect that? Are you really so shocked? Did you faint in your living room when he did that? Like, what the fuck are you rambling on about? I get the point, but understand, you're just playing the game like everybody else when you're doing that. You happen to be playing it from the side or for the side that I have a lot more overlap with, obviously, but you're still playing the game. When I heard a group of friends of mine, some of them may be watching, when I heard that this had transpired, one of the things that I said was, I'm sadder about the fact that it took me $21 to fill up my Harley a couple of hours ago. And again, it's like, it's not that I don't think this is tragic. It's not that it's not, this kid, he's dead anyway, but, should have gotten, the maximum penalty, that we give or that one could give, like whatever it is. All those things I agree with. It's just, how easily are you fucking distracted from the things you're supposed to be doing? Like, how easy? There are still people online, and I just checked yesterday, who have the I stand with Ukraine picture on their fucking Facebook. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? Are you that easily fucking controlled? Obviously, the answer is yes, but how could somebody think that they're ever going to achieve any sort of balance, any fulfillment, any happiness in life when they have anchored their daily sense of worth to the control of other people, of disconnected people? Not even disconnected values, right? Which I describe in the book as a transcendent alliance. These pure representations of standards that we want to sort of be the lighthouse in the storm, when we're going through rough periods. No, they're anchoring this alliance to people, fallible people, selfish people, deviant people. And my whole thing is like, listen, we're going to have different preferences. That's okay. That's okay to have different preferences. Like, if I am assessing all of the things that I would like to do with my life, there are going to be things I don't do just because of the cost. And I don't mean the monetary cost. I mean the cost of it being so offset from what is acceptable, in society, that I'm going to have to sort of weigh it's like, is this worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze, as the saying goes? Well, you have individuals out there we know when you have the what is it, the drag story hour, drag whatever the fuck it's called, when cross dressers, and transmissions go to libraries and talk to children. Like, if you just look at that situation for a second, how the fuck did that ever come to be? And the answer is, like so many deviant, immoral aspects to our culture, it came to be gradually. It came to be gradually. Because that's how these things happen effectively at the scale of society. Because understand, like, if you are watching the sun come up in the morning, you could see it getting lighter, brighter, to the point where there goes the sun breaking the horizon. The sun is now officially out. There is no middleman in this process. There is a connected, relationship between you and the observation you're making of the sun and the horizon. You know what's going on. If the sun's out and the guy in the news says, yeah, the sun isn't out yet, you can go, well, he's full of shit. He's either stupid or he's a fucking liar. Why? Because the sun's right there. I see it. Well, when these individuals anchor their sense of self-worth, their plights in life, and consequently their preferences that are attached to it, to individuals who are only a middleman to all of the things that they purport to represent, it's no mystery why you're a fucking sucker. Why you wind up miserable. Common thing that I talk about is, hey, rich people kill themselves too. Rich people get divorced too. Rich people, and I use rich people as an example because that seems to be the thing that everybody thinks we're supposed to be becoming. That's what you've been convinced. Morbidly obese, divorced 3 times, fucking diabetic, maybe pill habit. Son thinks he's your daughter. Like, how did these things happen? He's got so much money, though. How did all these things happen? It's because we are connected to charlatans to sort of provide us with direction, to provide us with leadership on matters that they are not qualified to provide. Let me, there's a bunch of questions. I got some questions in messages, and let me go up here. Guys, if I miss your question, do me a favor and write it again, just so I see it. I really want to answer everything. I'm going to end on 1 o'clock sharp, so I got about 20-something minutes. So let me give you guys some shine here. Corey says it's leg day. Corey, every day is leg day, Corey. Judge Cohen says, see if any politicians. Oh, I think I could actually do this. Check this out. Oh, shit. Getting fancy pants. See if any politicians will give up their armed security. Sure liked actual assault rifles around D.C. last year, right? And he has the boots on the ground, so to speak, to see what's going on in D.C. And, of course there's hypocrisy. But, the funny thing is there will be people who will say, well, they're important people. They need to be protected. They're the ones that it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, if you think as an individual that anybody in government, that their lives are more important than anybody in your family and your tribe, you are a fucking retard and you deserve what you get. Lester Perkins, RN. Are you a registered nurse, Lester? Am I going to call you Fokker? I'm not going to call you Fokker if that's what it means. Could stand for like right now. I don't know. But Lester says, I've said it till I'm blue in the face. Make schools a hard target. If there had been armed security at those entrances, it never would have happened. Right on. And here's the thing, and this needs to be considered. The chances of it happening would have been greatly reduced, not because some badass with a fucking, with a handgun is going to, take on the assaulter. It's exactly what Lester said in the beginning. It's that it's a hard target. The incentive or the opportunity for somebody who wants to do something at this scope, it becomes mired, it becomes changed, it becomes a completely different idea for the individual if he thinks he's walking into some place that he's going to receive fire as soon as he opens up himself. Like there's this thing where we have to give more weight to how we incentivize the direction of our culture. Just making a rule does nothing for culture. You know how many people in my family who weren't working during the 80s and 90s? Not that they fucking have a job now. I just don't really deal with them much. But, getting the money for this, getting the money for that, food stamps and all these programs, the intention was good. The intention was we're going to help these people, but it's not the way culture changes. You cannot just pass a law and somehow expect people's culture to become more functional. The laws are there for one thing and one thing only, to regulate the deviants. Now, why is this becoming more of an issue society-wide? Well, I don't know if you guys realize, but we're having less and less overlap with our fellow Americans with every passing day. When you have people coming from all corners of the world with no directed pressure for assimilation once they get here, it's like, what the fuck do you expect? What do you expect? The ninjas walking around, the women with the ninja outfits, that you see walking around everywhere. How is this American? Well, they have a right to express their religion. Right. But I already know there's no law we're going to pass to make them more compatible. They need to be pressured socially. Before they get in the country, there should be some setup or some system to create the incentivized assimilation so they remain functional in the society whose benefits and surplus they are benefiting from. It's like we have all this shit because we've been a certain way. Understand that at some point you keep changing the way we are, there's really no reason to expect we're going to have the same level of shit. I saw a great meme the other day, a guy holding up a sign and he was talking about, if America goes, the world is fucked. Like we're the last line of defense. Any other country in the world needs help. They got a problem. They eventually call America, right? But what happens when America goes? Who the fuck do we call? It's not going to happen. Which is why these things, and again, I'm not even going to sit here and say, hey, we need to turn this around, guys. We need to, because I think that meta perspective on what it is we're doing, there's a disconnect. There are too many variables. There are too many buttons on the remote control, so to speak, to think that we're going to navigate that effectively. What we need to do is we need to pay attention to the scale that we actually have control over. Take care of your kids. Go to work every day. Stay healthy. Help the people around you. Like, these are universal, just moral benefits of every society that's ever been half worth of shit. These are things that people tend to do. I don't believe in this transcendent universal morality. I think there's a functional morality that, maybe not universal, but all people have in common. What are some of the things that we could say are universally observed when it comes to morality, right? Rather than calling it a universal morality, I got an idea. How about women not killing their babies? That's something that I think universally societies have always frowned on. Not us. Not us. Because we're so fucking smart, we're stupid. What else? What else? One of my favorites. That's right. You cannot legislate morality. Thank you, Brian. Judge Cohen says they should hire Bill Rapier or Kyle DeFore to craft the training so they could shoot correctly and then set them up. Well, you know, it's funny. Two good friends of mine, Bill Rapier, Kyle DeFore, two on Tom Kyer, and the guys at STG. You know, they represent a group of individuals who are not so emotionally biased that they lose sight of the mission, that they lose sight of what it is we're actually supposed to do. Bill and Kyle being two, you know, retired SEALs, you know, themselves. It's one of those things where we don't need people who make everybody feel good with the things that they're saying. We need somebody who's going to get the job done that we're complaining is not getting done. That's what it is. No teacher should love your kid more than you. You know, absolutely. Great point. You know, and I think that we've been coddled. Again, I wrote a book on homeschooling. I understand the transformation in our country, if not globally, of state-run schooling, and how it always starts with the best of intentions. That's how they recruit the support. But ultimately, it's control. That's what it is. I was doing a live show. I don't know if it was last week, and somebody was saying, I don't know where it was. It might have been in Switzerland. Someplace, but the guy said that where he was from, homeschooling was illegal. Homeschooling is illegal in many countries around the world. You got to ask yourself, why is that? Why can't a man and woman have a child, raise them so that they're healthy, they're well adjusted, and educate them themselves? Why is that illegal in those countries? Like, why else would it be illegal other than they want to make sure, they want to ensure the control over what the next generation of citizens are exposed to? You know, it's one of those things where whenever I hear people talking about other countries around the world, and I'm not shitting on those countries, by the way, like my wife and my in-laws, her entire family is from Brazil. I love Brazil. I've been in a few countries around the world, but, you know, there's nothing like America. I don't care. Oh, yeah, but the quality of life, you know, the state of health care, there's just like, understand when I say there's nothing like America, I don't give a fuck about any of those things. Those selfish, short-sighted aspects of a society. Like, we've been running shit for hundreds of years. Why? Because of our Constitution. We're going to have peaks and valleys like everybody else, but we have a backbone in America that doesn't exist in other countries. Why? Because people weren't raised liberty-minded. People weren't raised, not that there aren't exceptions, obviously. I think it's funny that a lot of those people wind up moving to America, though, as adults. But in America, we have this expectation of liberty. We have this expectation that the rights afforded to us by the Constitution and then, you know, the Bill of Rights, like these things are things that we see ourselves as being entitled to. Not that they're giving us our rights, but these promises to stay the fuck out of our way is something that we sort of expect as Americans. Around the world, there's a certain point where people are going to, you know, they have been modified, you know, morally to the point where they think that it's the right thing if the state says it's the right thing. I don't want to be a bad person. Well, why would you be a bad person? Well, you know, that's not exactly what the law says we should be doing. It's like, who the fuck asked you that? You know, I'm always going to do what I think is right. Most of the time, it's also, you know, legal. But that's the order of my priority, and it should be for every individual out there. How could you say that? That's, you know, that's dangerous. That, oh, well, let me remind you, fucking slavery was legal at one point. So nip that shit in the bud before you think you got something to fucking latch on to criticizing me, motherfucker. Fat Ralph, what up? Mad Poet says, have a security resource officer, policeman exclusive to each building, buy yearly active shooter drills. Well, and, you know, I'm all about it. And I would say, you know, a little bit of a bigger scale, put people with firearms on the premises and allow a logic-based training curriculum to develop. That's something, the feedback loop of reality, feet on the floor. One of the concepts I talk about in the book, I've talked about it for years now. One of the things that goes bad with martial arts is at some point they disconnect from reality. With a lot of martial arts, what that looks like is they stop sparring, they stop fighting. So they don't know if the shit works anymore. It becomes beautiful, it becomes impressive, it makes people feel good, all these other things. But martial arts is for fighting. So as soon as we lose that feedback loop of reality, we're now off mission. And I would say that's the expectation for anything, proposed like this here, having, a security resource officer. I am all about it. I am all about it. FL Treasure, what up? So FL Treasure says, we live in an increasingly degenerating society today in the USA, and it's being tolerated and promoted by all of our major institutions. Well, I agree. And, to give my take on that, and I've addressed it indirectly in other applications so far today. These corporations, these elitist individuals, they're doing exactly what I'm trying to recruit you people to do. They're worried about them fucking selves. They're going to try and follow the law. Like, understand, there's a certain point where you have a big enough budget, you got enough influence. That regulation, that is the collective morality, but may not be your individual morality. Suddenly you start writing people checks, you start raising money, you start doing favors. Next thing you know, you can get some of these actual regulations modified, right? And that's the whole the money in politics and lobbying and whatnot. It's like, yeah, they're doing just what I'm telling you to do, right? But these are the same people that these elitist individuals that also understand that the more they can distract individuals that don't have as much influence and control that they do with these trivialities. How many of you fuckers are watching the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial? It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Is a fucking, famous actor getting divorced from a famous actress with drugs and abuse? Is that really unique to you? All right, see what else. Alex Solis, what's going on, brother man? Ryan, my man up north. Yeah, getting it right. It's funny. I put so much fucking effort into doing this damn office and stuff. My wife built that wooden wall there. I think she built the bookcases also. But designing everything, getting it right, it fucking gives me nightmares sometimes. I'm trying to do this thing right. And then I'll watch some guy on YouTube or something and he has the fucking the virtual background with a green screen. It's like, motherfucker, and he's putting out good stuff and everything. I'm like, why do I fucking bother with this shit? But it's one of the things that I get into. All right, FL Treasure says, America was built by immigrants who assimilated and found common ground. This peaked around the mid-1900s and then declined as more diversity was promoted. Well, how about this? I'll throw you a little bit of a curveball where that's concerned. And I will say diversity certainly added to the demise or the decline, rather, of eventually foreshadowing a little bit, the decline of society's productivity and cohesion. But we also have to understand, as machinery developed, as the Industrial Revolution took place, what winds up happening is you have a bunch of people who now don't rely on the brute labor, the brute strength, the physical attributes to get things done like we had pre-Industrial Revolution. So what does that mean? Brass tacks, it means you have women who now can make a living outside of the home. You have women who now have options, and if they are so inclined, then you now change society in a way where that family unit, that nuclear family, that traditional family now becomes inconvenient for people. And when you factor in careers and the pursuit of these different, avenues of careers for women, it also, it means that you're getting a lot of capable women who are not, investing that energy in strengthening the home and strengthening the familial unit, strengthening the tribe, as you go out from there, strengthening the country and the culture, So I would certainly say that diversity, in a general sense, it did that, but it came in the form of opportunities for women early on. I am not somebody who thinks that women should not be able to vote, which is like a weird thing to introduce a point with, right? So, there's something there. But I also understand that the fact that we have men and women, husband and wife, who vote differently is fucking retarded. Think about what that is representative of. You have a husband and a wife who have children, who live in the same home, or regular husband and wife by any normal standards, right? One votes Democrat, one votes Republican. It's like, what are you guys doing? like you guys got to sort some shit out. So whereas I don't think, hey, you got to remove votes from women, I think that every household should have one vote. I do think that, and you could argue and this is what winds up happening. You wind up arguing the minutia of the law because that's your bias. Listen, we can work that shit out later. Let's just agree that this isn't right, that this should change, that ultimately this is going to lead to our undoing. I put up yesterday that, what was the fucking, one of the memes? Crazy people shouldn't have firearms, mental illness test, sir, do you think you're a woman? Yes. Well, no guns for you. I made that, and a lot of guys were saying, and not that I disagree with them, Second Amendment, shall not be infringed. My boy Samir put that. Who's a lawyer? It's like, what the fuck would you know? I'm a lawyer. Okay, so you know something. And it's funny because obviously, I was looking for the platform to just put the joke, to make the joke. But I think it is also interesting, and I think there's some value in realizing that everybody somehow thought I was talking about the law. Everybody thought I was commenting on the law. And listen, I can understand how that could be conflated, but I think it's still worth just pondering for a second that is how we tend to think of these things. And I don't think we shouldn't get there, but we should, I'd say, start off with what exactly matters to us, which is what are our positions? What are our preferences on this? Where does our logic lead us? How do we, paint a functional picture through our eyes, and then find the relationship with the law that makes sense as a result of that? But I think it was curious that a lot of people thought I was talking about laws and such, All right. Mad Poet says sports, entertainment, faux outrage, outbreaks, celeb trials, and assorted Hollywood BS equals bread and circuses a la ancient Rome. And, and it's again, absolutely right. I absolutely agree. Yet it's one of those just easy takes on what's happening that becomes white noise. We have become so sabotaged when it comes to maintaining a pace in our relationship with life and relationship with nature. Like there are some people who will hear a point like that, and this is the bread and circuses from Rome. This is what they did to keep the people in their place, so they could do what they were doing. And there will be people today who will rebut that or think that they're rebutting it just by saying, "Yeah, well, I already know that. Everybody says that." It's like, well, that doesn't reduce its significance in the conversation. We're too eager to just get the next thing, to make the next point, to do all like I just we have to bring the scale of our attention back to self. I mean, I may have mentioned some of these things before, but it starts with the self. You understand that once you have the self, you actually have the identity to build alliances with. The two main paths of alliance is the tribal one and the transcendent. They're going to be more, on a tribal application. They're going to be a collection of even transcendent alliances. But if you don't know who you are, none of these things are going to make sense. Who are you that is building the alliance? Let's say you go to sign for a loan in a bank, and you have 10 names that you use because there are 10 versions of you in your head, and you sign. Like, the guy's going to want you to sign all of them, because if you don't pay, he's coming for you. Doesn't matter how many yous there are. It's like there needs to be a functional identity that is building these alliances. Yet you have people that are so emotionally driven. They are this person in this situation, they're this other person in this other situation, and that's something that people need to square away. Not completely, because I'll let you know when I figure out how to fucking do that. But we have to remain functional. All right. Last one here. FL Treasure. I'm a big fan of Augustus Invictus, lawyer in Florida. He's helping a friend of mine in a civil case right now. He has a great weekly podcast also. Absolutely. Augustus is a good friend of mine. Augustus is, he's somebody who has been a target in the media for a few years now, because my man's a little eccentric, but in every way that matters, Augustus is solid. And I've known him for years at this point, good buddy of mine, and I, we communicate fairly regularly as well. So his podcast, I forget the name of it, but Augustus Invictus, if you look up his podcast, it's like the Renegade something, write it down, FL Treasure, if you know the name of it, so I can give him a shout here. Brian Wilton, my man. What's up, brother, man? He says, if you don't love, respect, and take care of yourself, don't expect anyone else to do it for you. And I would say, as it should be, right? There's a meme that I made a couple of years ago, and it was me and my youngest son. And I think he was 4 at the time. He's 10 now. And it's me sitting on the mat, and he's standing next to me. And the quote that I had put there was, every time we help our children, we have to acknowledge that we are removing the power that they get from helping themselves for that thing. Right? And I would say in that vein, different application, going on what Brian Wilton shared. By the way, Brian Wilton, guys, Google his books, buy them. They're amazing. If you don't love, respect, take care of yourself, don't expect anyone else to do it for you. And I would say at the heart of that is a functional system, because it means that you are at least a net neutral, if not a net positive, in terms of your value to everybody else. If you're the guy that walks around -10, and every room you walk into, people got to ante up 10 units of identity for you to feel functional, you're a fucking drag, man. You're a drag. You're only ever going to be around people who are just as self-destructive, or somebody that has such a surplus, he treats you as a hobby, right? And who the fuck wants to be that? I am actually going to, I don't know the delay. This shit might be forever. Oh, here it is. Okay, I was actually going to Google it, and FL Treasure just posted it. So Augustus Invictus Crime and Punishment series on YouTube. I suggest you guys go and check that out. Augustus Invictus, one of the smartest people I know, a lawyer, very well versed in many different academic subjects, has been through some shit personally, so has a great sort of backdrop of reference to vet a lot of his positions. He and I don't agree on everything, obviously. He has great hair to begin with, so fuck him, right? But solid dude. All right, guys, we'll end it there. Do me a favor, share the video, like it, do all those different things. MasterChim.com. If you don't get the emails yet, do that. But it's been a great talk. I'm here every Wednesday at noon. And not only on YouTube, but also on the Justin Garcia Facebook page and the Master Chim Facebook page. So if you are not connected with me on Facebook, just look on the TRIBALNOMICS YouTube page, and you'll find these on Wednesday for the Wednesday Warrior stream. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys next week. And as always, brothers and sisters, pressure to motherfucking